Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If I could ask you to please take your seats. Those of you that are close to the exit, if you could take your seats. We're about to begin the proceedings. And of course, as is my remit, I would ask all of you to please rise for the national anthem of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let's take that again. You may be seated. Well, a very warm good morning to all of you, brothers and sisters. I have the honor, yet again, to be your traffic warden for the next few hours, to guide you through, to direct the traffic towards what is a very important destination. Welcome to the launch of Her AfCFTA with the theme Breaking Barriers, Positioning Women to Harness Africa's Trade Opportunities. My name is Mark Edo, and I'll just squeeze this in before we begin. If anybody comes to me again and says, "You've been in this country a long time," I will have to actually kind of, tell them really how long, which has been hundreds of years. I am indeed a Nigerian and a proud one. I'm also a he for she. Yes, because for those that think, why is a woman not standing up here? It's because it's not just women that should be involved in the empowerment of women to take advantage of the AfCFTA. Men play an equal part in creating an equal society. So I very much believe that, and I'm a champion for that. So that's why I'm not a woman standing here right now. But there are a lot of women who will be standing here very shortly, very, very enigmatic, forward-thinking, and dynamic women you'll hear from. Now, before we begin, protocol dictates that I just say a very warm thank you to a lot of people who've taken time out of their very busy schedules to be here today. If I miss anybody, I do apologize, and I will try to correct it as we go along, because many people have been dropping in. They may not be on my list. But I do see His Excellency, the Norwegian ambassador here. Thank you very much for being here from Abuja, Mr. Sven Bara. Norway, of course, is I actually live between Norway and Nigeria, ironically, and I will tell you, is a champion when it comes to gender equality. It's held up as a beacon of gender equality. So it's very nice to have you here, Your Excellency. We have the highest ranking officer in the United Nations. I'm sure all of you know that the UN has agencies like UNDP, OCHA, and so on, many agencies, UNICEF, but there's only one person at the top that has to drive the bus, the guy right at the top, or the lady right at the top. In this case, it's Mr. Mohammed Malik Fall. He's come from Abuja, the resident and humanitarian coordinator of the United Nations, and a big champion champion for women's equality and women in the AfCFTA. My brother, welcome. And he's also a West African brother from Senegal. I must mention that as well. Ms. Nonye Ayeni is here, Executive Director and CEO of the Nigeria Export Promotion Council, representing the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment is with us. You're welcome. We'll hear a lot more about exports, actually, as we go along. It's very important because exports are what power countries. Of course, our convener in all this from New York is here. We've had quite a week, actually. It's amazing. It's been an amazing week, a very empowering week when it comes to trade and what Africa and Nigeria as the powerhouse of Africa, as the leading economy in Africa, can do in this brave future, and how trade and young people and technology and innovation play an important part in this uncertain crisis-hit world. But as my father used to say, never waste a good crisis, son. Never waste a good crisis. This is the opportunity to make for change. Please welcome the UN Assistant Secretary General and Director, UNDP Regional Bureau for Africa, Ms. Ahuna Eziakonwa. Right next to her is another powerhouse when it comes to the UNDP, a lady who is the UNDP resident representative here in Nigeria. We launched a fintech hub this week for young people. We had 42 young people from across the length and breadth of this great continent. Elsie and her team put this together. It was very emotive, very powerful stuff. So please say a warm welcome to Miss Elsie Atafwa. Now, when it comes to powerhouses, I can never actually find the right words to describe the next lady that I would ask for you to give a warm round of applause for. Everybody really in this room knows her, and she's really the face of women's empowerment in business. She created, I think, WIMBIZ, I think that's what it was called, but she was also a leading light when it came to breaking glass ceilings, or steel ceilings even, in this country. She is, of course, the CEO of the CEO of the Chair Center Group and the chairperson of the National Advisory Board on Impact Investing. You'll know her from her many other roles as well. We have with us Mrs. Ibukun Awoshika. Who hasn't been to Tafawa Balewa Square? Anybody? I'm in my 50s now, and that was like going to London back in the day for me, you know. You know, you go there was shops. Daddy, can I have this sweet? No. Can I have that? That's where we used to buy our tickets, actually, to go abroad back in the day, yeah? There used to be the travel agents. Now you do it on your phone. Back there, it was Tafawa Balewa Square we used to go to. It's very iconic. It's a very iconic place when it comes to business. And it's actually travel as well. We have the MD of Tafawa Balewa Square right here. Mrs. Lucia Shitu is with us, the MD. Now, I'll move on, and if any other people are here or turn up, I'll make sure that I do the needful and acknowledge them. So let's begin with the program now, which is a very interesting program. We'll have a number of speakers, but we'll also have a very eclectic panel that will discuss some of the challenges and opportunities of trading, doing business, starting an SME, what the AfCFTA offers for women, in Africa. Now, the AfCFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, has been operating for about 4 years now, and the hopes of 1 billion Africans are pinned on the AfCFTA. I always call it Pan-Africanism 2.0 because I think about what the African Union has championed over the past 50 years. You know, silence the guns, there's many things, and the biggest success has been the AfCFTA. It was something that was created in a record time compared to how it took 50 years for the European Union to get their act together. And I think we undervalue, sometimes when we do things, we undervalue those things. They get lost in the noise. But I see the AfCFTA as a global phenomenon. It's the largest trade area in the world. It's taking some time. Birth is never easy. There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears when it comes to birthing something beautiful. But it is really taking shape. And it's incredible what it can do for women in particular. Go to any border across Africa and look at who's crossing informally. You will see many women, mostly women, suffering the slings and arrows of outrageous behavior at the border. Still, they carry their loads on their heads in the sweating sun, determined, that grit, because they have to feed their families, and they have that grit to make a difference in their lives and the ecosystem, because Africans are ecosystems, right? In Norway, we have the state can take care of your health care. I know, I live there. They can take care of your social security. Here, if you have a job, if you're a trader, you are a social security system. You are a healthcare system for many people. So people are not working individually. It's a very unique situation. That collective Ubuntu, I am because we are, is what gets that trader up in the morning, gets her to put that thing on her head, and gets her to drive through everything in order to make that trade. That power, it's there. It's the kernel we want to foster and grow in Her AfCFTA. 70% of informal cross-border trade is by women, 70%. Now, a 2022 report on UN Women, UNDP, and AfCFTA Secretariat, just 2022, just 2 years ago, it highlighted some of the challenges they have. Access to capital, that's a challenge for every trader, every SME, but it's particularly difficult for women, and we'll discuss that in the panel later. Market information. How can you even scale if you don't know what's going on? Where's the data? Where's the information? How do you know how to, the laws and rules? You know? And there's something else as well. 32% of women in this report, and I encourage you, it's online to read it. 32% of women, that's 1 in 3, more or less, reported violence and aggression as they were trying to just do their business. 1 in 3. Those are the ones that reported it, not the ones that experienced it. You got to remember that. Reporting is not a reflection of the reality. It's an indication of the reality. It's probably much higher than that. So things have to change. But how do they change? That's why we're here. That's why we're here. Now, Her AfCFTA is a platform for change in that regard. It was launched by the Africa Director Ahuna at the AfCFTA Business Forum in 2023. And it calls for collective action, capacity building, access to markets. It calls for business networking because it's who you know, as they say in business. It calls for investment opportunities into women's businesses and out of women's businesses. And this is the 4th industrial revolution, my friends. Everything is changing. Digitalization is very important. We launched, as I said, the FinTech Hub, and there were a lot of young women that talked about their businesses from Malawi, Uganda, Tanzania. We had someone from Somaliland, which isn't even a country that is yet recognized, was on our stage. And they're all looking to the future. They're not building for now that will be gone tomorrow. They're building for today, what will happen tomorrow. So digitalization is an important key factor in Her AfCFTA. So put simply, Her AfCFTA aims to make the AfCFTA, ladies, your AfCFTA. Now, this launch will showcase some talents and potential for women in trade under AfCFTA and show how we can scale them up and create, hopefully, new friends and new collaborations before we leave here. I just want to, before I call the first speaker, I just want you to remember 3 terms and because this will run as the red threads through this entire day. Her knowledge, her network, and her facility. Remember that? Can we say that together, actually? Her knowledge, her network, and her facility. Okay, if you say things 3 times, right? As we say in Yoruba, Owole, it enters. So one more time, please. Her knowledge, her network, her facility. That's good. That's exactly what I wanted. Now, on to the main thing. I've spoken enough now. It's not for me to speak. It's for me to introduce the welcome address from the UN resident representative. Please welcome again, Ms. Elsie Atafwa.
Thank you very much, Mark. Good morning to you all. Let's have some energy here. Good morning to you all. Good morning. Am I not looking great? Because I'm wearing Nigeria's Adire as well as my Ashoke. And then I'm wearing my beads from Zambia and South Africa. And my bracelet is from Ghana. So this is AfCFTA. And I carry the McKinsey bag, which is there, but except for my shoe. So let's look for somebody who will do an African shoe for me next time around. So let me try to do, maybe stand on existing protocols, but perhaps to say a few introductions as well as I get started. To first of all, recognize the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Uzoka Anite, represented by Ms. Nonye Ayeni, Director General, National Nigeria Export Promotion Council. And let me also, on behalf of all of us, extend condolences to Her Excellency, the Minister. She couldn't join us because she unfortunately lost her mother 3 days ago. I want to recognize as well our own and my boss, United Nations Assistant Secretary General, Assistant UNDP Administrator, and Regional Director for Africa, Ms. Ahuna Ezeakonwa. And our United Nations Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator. He's been with us the entire week. And thank you very much, Mohammed, for believing in us. Really appreciate it. And all excellencies and ambassadors, and let me recognize the ambassador of DRC. She was not recognized earlier on. She's also here with us. And members of the diplomatic corps, UN heads of agencies, private sector, powerful women, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning once again. Now, after checking out the exhibition downstairs, I'm sure you have caught a glimpse of why we are gathered here today. From those wonderful women who are trading and selling gari for exports, and those who had bags and clothes, and many more, the story is out there. My role is simple: to warmly welcome you to the unveiling of Her AfCFTA, not just as an ordinary initiative, but what I would love to call a supercharged effort to enhance meaningful participation of Nigerian women in intra-African trade. So what's our mission? Our mission, it is straightforward: to dismantle trade barriers for women and create opportunities that transform the Africa Continental Free Trade Area into the ultimate convenient playground for women entrepreneurs. AfCFTA, as you know, is the largest free trade area on earth, 1.4 billion people, and African countries have signed up to this to connect themselves some more. AfCFTA would help us to create opportunities to harness trade-led growth through increased product diversification and competitiveness, but also importantly, to lift 30 million people out of extreme poverty, as well as 68 million Africans from moderate poverty. In all this, the focus on women is very vital. The success of the agreement will depend on women, we believe. By empowering women through trade and investment, we are not just promoting gender equality, we are unlocking Africa's transformative potential. Excellencies, esteemed ladies and gentlemen, UNDP's strong partnership with the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment and private sector institutions and champions shows that we are united on this one mission: building the ultimate dream for trade. Together, we will empower small, big, medium-sized enterprises to scale up enterprises, to access regional markets. And we heard it today through the conversations as we did the exhibition. Many of the women said, we need markets. We have the products, we need markets. But to ensure Nigerian women are ahead of the game, today we will be unveiling Her AfCFTA initiative dedicated to enhance trade and investments. And for us, this is great. And our regional director birthed this idea. So as Mark said earlier on, the pillars are three. One is her knowledge. But why knowledge? As we're just having the conversations during the exhibition, a number of women said, but we don't know where to go. And so it's also to help connect women to market intelligence. What is the market in DRC? 80 million people. How do you penetrate DRC? And by the way, DRC is importing things like offals from Brazil. So maybe Niger, we can export offals to DRC. That is the idea. The market intelligence, the data, the information, that's one of the things that we are looking forward to. And we do hope that through this initiative, UNDP, together with other partners, will be able to provide that support, Her Knowledge. And Her Network. The space that we are in is also a space for network. We believe that through business-to-business collaboration, there are great opportunities in the continent. We'll be able to support Nigerian women as well to network with others. And our regional director will be announcing very soon some of the things that we'll be doing. And of course, the last point is her facility, which again, I will not go so much into. In the interest of time, let me say that before us is an opportunity to change the destinies of African men and women, boys and girls, by offering a new pathway to making trade easier, more streamlined, and less costly. I will not keep you waiting much longer because there's plenty to experience today. You're most welcome to join us as we embark on this journey together and to empower the wonderful and resilient Nigerian women. As I always say, Niger no dey carry last. But only yesterday, our regional director said, and very inspirational, actually, we should spin it around, Niger go carry first. So welcome aboard, and a very good morning to you all once again. Thank you.
And by the way, she's Ghanaian. So, you know, that's love right there. You know, wonderful. Yes. Okay, as I said, I'm going to recognize people through the proceedings. And you know, in order to export, primarily you need to have something to export, right? You need to manufacture. Yeah, so it gives me great pleasure to see the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria's president right over there, wearing white, I think. I think he's over there. Please give a warm round of applause to Otumba Francis Mashoye, OFR, no less. His Excellency, the High Commissioner of Zambia as well. I have to recognize you, sir. Mr. George Muhali Imbuma is here, I believe. And who's been to the Lagos Trade Fair? I have. The MD, Mrs. Veronica Ndanusai, is here as well. Welcome. We recognize you. Ekoni Baje. Lagos is a powerhouse, you know, so... okay, now, what has Nigeria's AfCFTA journey been so far? Africa's largest economy. I mean, we swivel between South Africa, but Africa's largest economy. Very important to the success of not just this region, but the entire continent of Africa and the hopes and dreams of the African Continental Free Trade Area. If Nigeria doesn't make it, the AfCFTA doesn't make it, and Africa doesn't make it. So how's the journey been so far? Well, for just a few minutes, 5 minutes, I'm going to call, actually, my namesake, Segun, that's my middle name as well, Olusegun Olutayo, who is the Senior Trade Policy Expert at the AfCFTA Coordination Office. Hopefully he's here somewhere. Is he here? Yes, there you are. Give a round of applause to Segun, who's going to give us the overview, Nigeria's AfCFTA journey so far.
Thank you. 5 minutes. First and foremost, it's an honor to bring greetings from my principal, Mr. Olusegun Awolowo. Incidentally, he's also bearing Olusegun. And I'm also bearing Olusegun, and my very good brother is also bearing Olusegun. So Nigeria is in for great things. Olusegun are great people. Secondly, is also to recognize, regardless of all the protocol that has been established, the Harare. A round of applause for her, please. We salute all your energy for AfCFTA. And of course, I'm going to recognize the Nigerian Designated Competent Authority, the Customs Service, represented by the DCG. You are welcome. And of course, again, the President of MA. We salute you, sir. AfCFTA, in one word, is about businesses. I did a course in one of my MSc programs, and they taught us that if you cannot summarize a one page in one word, then you have not done anything. So when you summarize AfCFTA, it's about what? Businesses. In the context of Nigeria, yes, you have the information. We were a bit not even signing in 2018. But then, as I speak to you, Nigeria has gained the speed. First and foremost, the PAPS, one of the operating tools for AfCFTA, has been launched in Nigeria. And as I speak to you, businesses, they use PAPS to activate their businesses across the border. Secondly, there's a critical aspect, which is technical. We call it gazetting. As I speak to you, the technical processes has been concluded. It is just the administrative, the signing off of Mr. President. Number three is the wisdom of our President, Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Just of recent, he has approved a transition from National Action Committee to Nigerian AfCFTA Coordination Office. A round of applause for that, please. So AfCFTA Nigeria is no more committee. It's an office domicile in the presidency. We have a better platform now. We have a better leverage and a better latitude to even reach out across the border. Number five, in the context of what we have done so far as well, it is to the fact that by next week, Nigeria will be launching the Guided Trade Initiative. Companies have been inspected. Secretariat in Ghana has collaborated with that, and we are going to be unveiling all these companies. You are all invited. Letters have sent out, and of course, we are expecting Mr. President as well, who graciously agreed to be on ground. And a lot of our ministers, they also agree. Everybody, AfCFTA is the way to go. Let me say this as I step aside because of the time that was given to me. If there's anything, any one of us, whether business, private, whatever cap you are wearing, that we must embrace, it is the AfCFTA. We have run the numbers. We have designed the models. There is no other path to industrialize Africa, to galvanize the economy of this country, but the AfCFTA. On this note, I welcome every one of us as we will be launching the Guided Trade Initiative next week, taking Nigeria to the Africa and the global. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Olusegun Olutoyayo. Segun means victory, means God is victorious, and I'm sure we will be victorious in Her AfCFTA and moving the dial on that. Now let's get to the goodwill messages. I acknowledged him before as being our top person at the UN, guiding UN agencies from Abuja and all around Nigeria, really. Please, for the first goodwill message, give a warm round of applause to our resident and humanitarian coordinator, Mr. Mohammed M. Malik Fall.
Thank you so much, Mark. I think there is nothing more difficult than having to speak after Elsie with a much level of positive energy. And I realized that just my brother who spoke before me also have lifted up the energy. Let me try to follow a bit their step by also being mindful of time. Let me just recognize all the dignitaries here present, recognize the member of the diplomatic mission here present, recognize my fellow colleague from UN, but most importantly also the women in business that gathered with us here in the room. Before coming to this room, I have passed to the exhibition, and I have only one thing to say, and I will say it boldly. We are proud of you. I think looking at your exhibition show clearly that if you are given the possibility and the opportunity, you can not only match but go beyond the international standard from the product we have seen here. Mark, you were talking about some of the defining initiatives that the African Union have taken in the recent years. But I can say here without hesitation that among all of them, the most important is the Free Trade Initiative. It is because if you look at our continent, among the many challenges we face, the biggest is poverty. The biggest is inequalities. But inequalities not only between social groups, not only between countries, not only within countries, but most importantly, inequalities between gender. And for this free trade to reach its aim of removing barriers, removing obstacles, making business more conducive, creating prosperity, creating jobs, creating employment, bringing income, it needs to put women at its center. Because only if we have women placed at the center of business that we can guarantee that the wealth, the income will trickle to the level of family, will trickle in the communities, and will trickle in nationwide. This is why I think this gathering and this initiative is extremely important. Let's say also we are having it at a time with not only Nigeria, but the world is confronted to many challenges. The Secretary General launched last week the report on the Sustainable Development Goal. And the backdrop is gloomy. We have seen that only 17% of the target of the Sustainable Development Goal are on track. And if you look at now the time we are left before 2030, it's less than 6 years. Therefore, we need to double down in Nigeria and in the continent. And to do so, we need to put women in the center of the initiative we are taking. And I can say that with free trade initiative having potential to bring about growth, address inequality, bring prosperity to our continent, we need to have the women play the key role that they need. This is why my call to you is this initiative is yours. This initiative, take it, own it, be aggressive, get connected, network, go beyond borders. That's how you will show to the rest of the world the leadership that you can play. Let me finish by a few words of thanks. Someone I could not avoid to thank, not only because she's my sister, and not only because she's one of the African women that made us proud in the international community from her role, but not only also because she is the daughter of the soil, but because also if we have gathered today and if the initiative have taken this dimension, it's thanks to her. Ahuna, you have been with us all the way from the establishment of the Secretariat to here. You have been there, the voice of the continent, given your passion for the continent, but also, I think your Pan-Africanism that you articulated yesterday, like no one could do in front of those 42 young people coming from different countries in the continent. But the way also you champion women and African women cause is unique, and this will leave a mark for the next generation. And I could not just really finish this welcome remark without mentioning this, because we need thousands of you. If we really want to move the needle in this continent, that's what we need. This kind of visionary leadership. And for that reason, thank you. And thank you also to see behind you, younger sister rising there. I want to mention Elsie, but not only Elsie, all the team of UNDP, all the team of UN that work with me. I'm so proud of you. And throughout you, I look at my daughter, I look at my younger sister and see them rise in a continent that is different from what we have seen and what we have known. And I think that's what you have opened the way for. And thank you, and we will remain grateful to you for it forever.
One more time for our resident and humanitarian coordinator, Mr. Mohammed Malik Fall. I want to recognize Aisha Aogi, who is the Director General of the Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization. Culture, of course, plays a big part in this. In fact, I was just talking the other day about how Afrobeats didn't wait for AfCFTA to break down borders. It's amazing, right? Culture plays a big part in that, and we'll hear a little bit about that in the panel that we're having shortly. We're also joined by Caroline Niagwu, who is the Deputy Comptroller General of Customs and Tariff and Trade at the Nigeria Customs Service. She's representing the Comptroller General of Customs of Nigeria is here. Now, Ahuna said something yesterday, actually, at a lecture at Unilag in front of students there. She asked them what the Nigerian flag, the colors represented, right? Everybody over 50 seemed to know the answer, but the green, of course, is the fertile green land, that we have. But the white actually signifies the sea, and the sea plays a very important part in trade. In fact, most trade goes by the sea, but the sea is also a source of products for trade. So I'm very honored to invite to give a goodwill message from the Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy on behalf of the Honorable Minister Oyetola. Please welcome the Permanent Secretary, Olufemi Oloruntola.
A very good morning to all of us. I bring you very warm regards from the Honorable Minister, His Excellency Adegboyega Oyetola, CON. The Ministry of Marine and Blue Economy plays extreme importance on the preparedness of Nigeria to take advantage of AfCFTA. The ministry recognizes the very important role women play in our exports. The ministry, therefore, is glad to welcome this initiative and to offer its compliments to it. I am here to give to you the goodwill message of the Honorable Minister. The ministry's creation is the biggest commitment government has given in recent times to the blue economy sector. And the ministry is doing what is necessary now to reposition the port systems to really complement and improve the ease of doing export business. I want to give to you the commitment of the ministry and the assurance that the ministry will show good results for the commitment government has given for its creation. If you have noticed recently, you would have observed that the ministry was rated highest among all ministries by the PEBEC Council. Its agencies were also rated the highest. On this note, let me again assure you that women, as the pivotal contributors to the informal sector, which still dominates our business environment, are well noted by the ministry, and the ministry is doing all it can to assist them, most importantly within the fishery sector. The ministry is initiating programs to encourage and boost our exports in fishery. On this note, ladies and gentlemen, please accept the warm regards of the Honorable Minister Adegboyega Oyetola, CON. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I want to recognize Mrs. Folashade Ambrose Medebem, who is the Honorable Commissioner for Commerce, Cooperatives, Trade and Investment for the great state of Lagos. Eko, welcome her, please. The special remarks that, before we go into the keynote speech are from the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. The minister herself would love to have been here, but she had something that literally could not allow her to be here, but she's a very, very powerful supporter of this initiative. She understands the power of trade plus women to make transformational change in lives and livelihoods. She is, of course, the Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister Doris Uzoka Anite, and she's represented by the CEO of the Nigeria Export Promotions Commission, that is Miss Nonye Ayeni. Please welcome her.
Good morning, everyone. Your Excellency, Mr. Ahuna Ezikonwa, the UN Assistant Secretary General and Director of the UNDP Regional Bureau for Africa, the Resident and Humanitarian Coordinator, Mr. Mohammed. Sorry, I don't know your surname. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it, yes. The Honorable Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Honorable Minister Adeboyega Oyetola, he ably represented. Ms. Elsie Atafua, the UNDP Resident Representative, Your Excellencies and Ambassadors here present, the President of MAN, Heads of Industries, Captains of Industries, distinguished guests, esteemed partners, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen, all other protocols observed. I am here to represent my Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Dr. Doris Nkiruka Uzoka Anite, CFA, and also to read her special address. She is unavoidably absent today, though she's not here physically, but she's here with us in spirit. And I want to say that she deeply regrets not being here physically with us. But despite her absence, her commitment to advancing trade and investment and economic growth remains unwavering. Let us honor her dedication, her doggedness, her passion by forging ahead with this Her AfCFTA program, knowing that her spirit is with us in this important endeavor. I hereby read her speech, her special address. It is an honor to address you today at the flag-off of Her AfCFTA program, a groundbreaking partnership between the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment and the United Nations Development Program, UNDP. This initiative represents a pivotal moment for Nigeria and the entire African continent. I would like to thank UNDP for their commitment to this initiative and their dedication to Nigeria. I welcome my sister, Ms. Ahuna Eziakonwa, the UN Assistant Secretary General and Director of the UNDP Regional Bureau for Africa back home, and also thank my new sister, Ms. Elsie Atafua, UNDP Resident Representative, for all her support. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, provides Africa with an opportunity to reshape our future. If utilized properly, it can unlock unprecedented growth and prosperity for the African continent. With regards to diversifying export and accelerated growth, AfCFTA broadens and enhances market access, allowing businesses to tap into new opportunities across Africa. By strengthening regional value chains, we can diversify our exports and accelerate economic growth. For intra-African trade and global competitiveness, currently, Africa accounts for just 2% of global trade. AfCFTA aims to change this by promoting inter-African trade. As we integrate more effectively into the global economy, we enhance our competitiveness on the world stage. For investment and consumer spending, the International Trade Center estimates that AfCFTA's target market comprises 1.227 billion people and is projected to rise to 1.7 billion by the year 2030. Africa's aggregate GDP is expected to reach $6.7 trillion US dollars. I think that's a huge number. $6.7 trillion US dollars. AfCFTA could attract about $4 trillion in investment and consumer spending, so that's not a small sum. For job creation and SME competitiveness, AfCFTA isn't just about numbers, it's about people. By facilitating job creation and empowering African small, medium-sized enterprises, SME, we can uplift ordinary citizens across the continent. Nigeria, as Africa's largest economy, holds immense potential within AfCFTA. However, as we step into this new era of expanded trade and investment opportunities, we need to ensure that all segments of society are equipped with the necessary tools and resources for success. AfCFTA can be a catalyst for positive change for female entrepreneurs, and Her AfCFTA program is our commitment to ensuring that women are not just participants, but they are leaders in the new era of inter-African trade. Our approach is holistic, addressing policy support, trade facilitation, business networking, investment opportunities, and digitalization. We recognize that for women to thrive in AfCFTA framework, we must dismantle barriers that have long hindered their full participation in trade. Today, we call on all stakeholders, from government agencies to private sector, entities, civil society organizations, to international partners. And I'm pleased to see such a strong cross-section of women from all sectors. I urge all here present to join forces in supporting the success of this initiative and of Nigerian entrepreneurs. Together, we will create an environment where women businesses can flourish beyond borders, where their innovation can find new markets, and where their success stories becomes the norm rather than the exception. As we launch Her AfCFTA today, we just pledge to work collaboratively towards a future where every woman entrepreneur can say with confidence, this is her opportunity for growth. This is her AfCFTA. So thank you, and may God bless the good people of Nigeria. Signed, Dr. Doris Anite, Uzoka Anite, CFA, Honorable Minister of Trade, of Industry, Trade, and Investment. Having read the minister's speech, permit me to use this platform to say that at NEPC, we are very supportive of what the minister, the Honorable Minister, is doing. Incidentally, we are part of that ministry in facilitating trade and doing a lot in terms of trade and export. Two things are very dear to her heart. One is trade. The second is women empowerment. And we greatly align with this, with her passion, her doggedness, and what she's done with regards to trade. But permit me for 1 second to say, working with the Honorable Minister, we have done a lot of training in building capacity for women exporters. We have trained them with regards to packaging, to labeling. We have also facilitated international on international certification, and we've seen a lot of women exporting to different countries, especially in Africa. We'll continue to empower them. We've actually partnered also with International Trade Center, that's ITC, and we have built what we have, a platform, a powerful platform we call the She Trade. This is her, but we say a She Trade. We have done some capacity, some centers where we have over 4,000 women participate. This is job creation, and it aligns with our Honorable Minister's passion and the renewed hope agenda of Mr. President, His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu's renewed agenda for job creation and poverty alleviation. So thank you very much, and I want to leave this comment to say that the best man for the job is a woman. Thank you.
The best man for the job is a woman. I love it. Thank you very much, the CEO of NEPC. Thank you very much for that. Now we've come to the moment we're going to take a keynote speech now, and then we're going to launch the Her AfCFTA initiative. So you know who's going to the keynote speech. The title is, of course, Breaking Barriers, Positioning Women to Harness Africa's Trade Opportunities. Let's learn more about that in a brief keynote speech. Please give a warm round of applause to a Pan-African powerhouse herself, the UN Assistant Secretary General and Director of the UNDP Regional Bureau for Africa, a lusty Lagos round of applause for Miss Ahuna Eziakonwa.
Good morning. Is it still morning? Yes. Good morning, everyone. What a great room. Thank you for being here. Really, I don't even know where to start in terms of greeting you, but I want to really recognize the government of this beautiful country of ours. Not just for this moment, but also for the overall support that we get as UNDP in this country. Elsie and her team have, the government backing everything that we do. We're here to accompany development, not to replace what government does. And it's really important that we've had a very strong partnership with this country. And the presence of the representative of the minister I met in New York when she was newly appointed, has a heart for this work. I remember her sitting with me and saying she had the vision to penetrate every corner of this country with the right kind of support for trade that brings dignity to people. And she invited us as UNDP to join hands in executing that vision. So I pay my respects to her and wish her warm condolences from all of us as she mourns her dear mother. And I thank you, my dear sister who just spoke on her behalf, for really capturing the vision and mission of AfCFTA and what Nigeria does to promote that. I also want to recognize our partners who are the ones who actually make it possible for UNDP to do what we do in terms of resourcing us. The ambassador from Norway had to leave, but his presence here earlier, I think, was a demonstration of that partnership. Norway is it's a core donor of UNDP, not just here in Nigeria, but also puts a lot of money into UNDP's core funding that would make it possible for us to be strategic in the way we support countries and not just drip, drip, drip. So I want to recognize our partners in the diplomatic corps. I want to thank you, Madam Ambassador from the DRC. Merci beaucoup. You have accompanied us throughout the whole week. DRC, as most of you know, is a powerhouse of minerals and resources, rich resources that will power tomorrow's development. And we are hoping that that country too will be liberated to play its anchor role for supporting Africa's development. But it's really a pleasure to have you in the room rooting for your country and for Africa. I also want to recognize all the powerful women here who brought their wares, but also the leaders and influencers in the room. I think Elsie really wanted to make this about recognizing the leadership force of our women. And as most people have already recognized, this is what's going to do the trick. It is providing a platform for us to harness that deep resource and asset that we'll find in our women. And I'm so passionate about the marketplace and the idea of trade, because we have for 5 decades been betting on aid as what advances development. But we know after 5 decades that this just doesn't do it, that we need trade, and we need fair trade. And this is something that the UN system is starting to recognize. And then comes AfCFTA, which really was for us, I mean, it came almost as a surprise. How did the member states of this African Union decide to sign up to this agreement, which is the largest that you have seen anywhere in the world, even larger than the European agreement? 1.3 billion people market, trillions of dollars. Why was that important? Why is that significant? If you look at the continent, in 1884, we had the Berlin Conference, where a bunch of Europeans got together and divided the continent into pieces based on just in terms of their appetite. There was nothing else. There was no logic to the division of this continent. And what it means, you end up with countries who have 500,000 people. What kind of market is that? Countries with 1 million here, 2 million there. And this has really strangled growth in Africa, because you cannot have that level of fragmentation and be able to dynamize your economy. So AfCFTA becomes a necessary pathway to Africa liberating itself from poverty and underdevelopment. And so when it arrived, UNDP felt immediately that we had to be material in its deployment. And that's why we got behind the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, the engine room for really driving that implementation. But we realized also very quickly that, like many things, this could be an arrangement that ends up marginalizing even further those who should benefit from it. And that group, women and youth. So we very quickly worked with the Secretariat for the adoption of the Women and Youth Protocol. And we also did the study that Mark referred to, where we looked at what would make it worth it for women and youth, for this group and the whole informal sector, the small, medium enterprises. We asked, in 27 countries on the continent, we asked women, what do they need to enhance their opportunity through this market? And it's already been mentioned, this Her AfCFTA is a result of that research. And it is directly designed to answer to those needs that the women put on the table. We need market access. We need capacity. We need facilities to be able, credit facilities to be able to scale. So that's why this moment is really important. And I want to thank Elsie, but also our resident coordinator, because the UN system here has been championing this. How do we accompany Nigeria, the biggest force for this market, to actually advance it and promote it? And I want to say something about the market women of this country. You know, someone talked about abuse and violence. When you talk about resilience, if you want hope, if you want to see hope, if you want to see resilience, if you want to see power, go to a Nigerian market. When everything else fails, go to a Nigerian market. You will be recharged. I never fail to visit a market in this because it is there that you see humanity at work. You see resilience the way it is described. You see fierceness, grit, determination. These are the women who are actually making sure that kids are educated. The school fees that are needed come out of that akara that is being fried in the morning. The health, when you need to go to the hospital, it is the woman who's been selling on the side of the street who makes the money available for that to happen. The food on the table, it's coming from the livelihood that comes out of the market. You would hardly find a market woman in this country whose kids could not go to school because they didn't have school fees. This is a dynamism. This is where dynamism happens in the marketplace. I've always been fascinated by this strength. It's strength. There's a kind of unbelievable strength of the market woman. And I have this image in my mind growing up, particularly in this part of Nigeria, where the gele represents the weapon of defense. Right? By this market woman, you talk about a market woman taking off her gele, tying it around her waist, and saying, "Bring it on." Right? It's like, where is the abuse? She is going to defend herself, and she's not going to allow you to touch her. And it is that fierceness. In Nigeria, they say there is no wife beating. There are husband and wives fighting. And basically, the woman, the market woman, is the one that will put her husband up and say, "God, see your pikin." The strength of the market woman is unbelievable. And it is that pillar, that strength, that we have to build on when we think her AfCFTA, her empire. The marketplace is like the empire of the woman. But why is it important that we advance this? They say that when you invest in a woman's business, a woman who is running a business, about 80% of her profit goes back into social activities. We can't say the same for the men, right? It is data that exists. When you invest in a woman's business, you are investing in social impact, because at least 80% of what she's getting out of that business is being plugged back into society to create social impact. And so, her AfCFTA comes to say the center, the heart and soul of this AfCFTA, the face of it, has to be the face of a woman. Because that is where the heartbeat of the transactions happen. We have to make sure that those women you saw there, and you even started to hear their stories, and I think we will hear some more, they are not just advancing themselves. Every woman has got a social cause with her business. She's saying, we're training the other young women who are buying from us. She's saying, we've got smallholder farmers that we have built to supply our raw materials, they are creating a value chain of livelihoods because the woman thinks beyond herself. The woman wants to transform her community. You see that value chain of a support system. Who would not invest in that? Only someone who is not part of this human family. Who would not invest in a woman who wants to raise others? That's what we are championing here as UNDP. We're saying it's a low-hanging fruit. It's a win-win. So through these 3 pillars of support, the knowledge, the capacity, the facility, we want to make it a little bit better for these women. And that's what I want to end on. You know, the African woman doesn't take a break. How many true African women have you met who say, I'm going on vacation? Everywhere else in the world, the situation is different. From her waking moment to the time she just puts her head down, she is working. It's not easy. And I've been around this continent, and it breaks my heart. You see women who are in their 30s looking like they're in their 60s. You touch their hands, it's like stone. Because if they're doing shea butter, they're doing shea butter with their bare hands because there are no machines. They are working and working and working for very little return. And what we are challenging here is the notion that you put in so many hours of work and you get so little back. Whoever said Africans are lazy? In fact, sometimes we've even come to believe it. The hard work of our women must lead to returns that match that investment, a return on investment. And what makes that possible is the support that we can provide to accompany them. And so Her AfCFTA arrives in Nigeria to advance that support. And I really want to invite all of you to look at this as a global public good and as an example of fighting for justice. If you believe in justice, it starts with making this arrangement work for women. Mark is here looking at me, so I'm gonna say thank you, and we're looking forward to now doing this launch. Do you want me to start here and read it? Yes. You want me to go through? All right. So there is an announcement that the resident representative would like me to make here. So it's with great pleasure that I unveil the Her AfCFTA initiative, a landmark project dedicated to enhancing trade and investment with a particular focus on empowering women and youth-owned businesses. This initiative is made possible through a catalytic investment of $1 million by the UN Development Program. We have $1 million is just a seed investment. We're going to invite many more partners to invest in this facility. which will do three things, as we've been naming: Her Knowledge, supporting women with market intelligence, data awareness raising, policy support, made possible through UNDP Policy and UNDP Knowledge Hub. A lot of the women I met outside said, we want to go to other countries to expand. How do we do that? So bringing that resource that allows them to make those connections will happen through this. Her Network, enhance business-to-business connections, supporting digital connections, networking platforms such as this one, policy dialogue platform as well. In Ghana just now, I was passing through Accra, where we supported women from Accra to go to Kenya in the guided trade program. And there was a young woman who was selling, she makes honey. And she said when she was selected to go to Kenya to display her wares, she was quite skeptical because she thought, there must be a lot of people making honey in Nairobi, in Kenya. And she got there, she said, Madam, I was sold out in minutes. I didn't realize that my honey from Ghana had a different taste from what Kenyans are used to, and they loved it so much, and now I'm getting so many orders. In Ethiopia, I lived there for a few years, and the first time I arrived, I was driving through the streets of Addis, and I saw lots of goat heads on the streets, just lying, thrown out. I'm like, why these people don't eat Isiewu? They've never heard of Isiewu being a dish. They just chuck it, they throw it. I'm like, I wish I could get a Nigerian business person here to collect all this Isiewu and make good money. So the market networks are going to be very important. Africa is your market. You're here, you have to go beyond. Yes, Nigeria has a huge market, but imagine if you could more than triple that in terms of your marketplace. Her Network. So lastly, Her Facility. This will include trade facilitation support, especially mobilizing finance and investments for logistics, for branding, and for exports. So the announcement is that we're going to provide support for women-owned SMEs, direct support to 300 women-owned SMEs through comprehensive trade readiness and capacity development programs. This vital component will be implemented in collaboration with the Women Chamber of Commerce, Industry, Mines, and Agriculture, and also our sister agency, UN Women. Then there will be catalytic funding to Women Chamber of Commerce, Industry, and Mines, and Agriculture to advance pipeline of investment-ready businesses. Then we hope to have catalytic fund to UN Women to support growth of women-owned businesses. And then lastly, partnership with the Nigeria Postal Services. This one is a bit of a surprise to some of you. To repurpose select 9 post centers into one-stop shops for access to public services. There are so many dormant, idle post offices across this nation. And post office buildings are really solid. They were built in times when we paid attention to quality and detail. But there they are lying waste. We're going to transform all of these centers into market hubs. And that in itself is an innovation. These initiatives are more than just an investment. We're also looking at a commitment to creating a more inclusive and prosperous future for women and youth entrepreneurs, driving sustainable economic development and growth across Africa. That is our announcement. And now we're going to unveil.
Why don't we take, go ahead, please.
We're going to unveil.
I'm going to announce the members to join us to representing the Federal Ministry of Industry Trade. We heard from her earlier, the CEO of NEPC. Please, if you could join us. And also UN Women represented. Where is our representative? Masima from UN Women as well. There's some real action. This is not just talk, so let's see and give them appreciation for that. Elsie, also please join us, of course. You should have naturally joined, really. Stay here, let's stand over here. Maybe you'd like to stand on the stage. Yeah, it's nice to stand, I think, on the stage. Let's take a photo before we come to the last leg of what has been a very inspiring morning. So, yeah, okay, there you go. Another he for she. Oh, Madam Wasima, yes. So these are the partners that are making it happen here. We have one more just making her way through, UN Women. And as the camera snap their snaps, I just want you to clap the claps, please, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations. Now you can exit stage, I think. Oh, you want the hold? Yes, of course. Hold hands in unity. 1, 2, 3. Her AfCFTA. Okay, then, we have one last thing I think we do before we just hear the closing thank you. This is, I love this part of any program. This is one of my favorite parts because they say information is giving out, communication is getting through. And I always feel that speeches are sometimes information and talking is communication. So I like to have panel discussions. Before I do, I just recognize that Nexim Bank is a strong supporter of this, and Abubakar Bello, of course, is the MD, represented here by Daniela Jakikre Ikazobu, who is also here, and Mrs. Omotere Omoluabi Davis is also here from the Regional Integration Coordinator of the Nigerian Country Department of African Development Bank, has joined us as well. Are you going to take over? No, sir. She for he. Yeah, I know. She's right there. And I'm going to invite her right now. Okay, let's have a rapid colloquial discussion about one of the most difficult areas that we discussed was mobilizing private sector finance for women-led enterprises. This is, it's difficult to raise funds anyway, no matter if you're a multilateral development agency or DFI, or if you're a trader. To find, especially in this climate, I think someone said it to me just the other day, his job was actually to raise funds for one of the very big DFIs. He said it's a bloodbath. He said this is the hardest time in his career ever to raise finance. And I think that runs all the way from SMEs or people with ideas to people, captains of industry. It's a difficult time to find the finance, which is the lifeblood of any business. It seems particularly difficult for women because of preconceived notions of risk, attitudes, discrimination, and it goes on, right? So how do we overcome this barrier? How does AfCFTA help? How does Her AfCFTA help? That's what we're going to be discussing in this fireside chat, maximizing AfCFTA, mobilizing private sector finance for women-led enterprises. Now, I'm going to ask my dear panelists to be careful as they take the step up. Some of them are wearing high heels. And please take your seats. On these seats, I'll guide you. And I want you to give them a warm round of applause as they come. First of all, she is the CEO of the Chair Center Group and Chairperson, National Advisory Board on Impact Investing. You will know her, of course, there's past chairperson of First Bank and many other roles that she's led. Please give our powerhouse, Ms. Ibukun Awoshika, a round of applause. You can sit in the middle there, madam. The next is a late addition to replace someone who couldn't make it. But wow, what a great addition. This is a serial entrepreneur right here. Currently, she wears the hat of the general manager and CEO of the National Theatre. I don't know if you've seen the National Theatre. It's going through a real facelift. But she's a serial entrepreneur. She's a hotelier who's been to Bogabiri in Ikoyi, a wonderful, one of the top boutique hotels in Africa, actually. She's a restaurateur. She even has her own cookbook that she's just released. She has an interior design company. In fact, I think they did some work in this very place. She runs the Soto Art Gallery and the 234 Art Fair. So she's looking for how you use creative industries as a business. She is she's quite busy, actually. So give her a round of applause. Tola Akerele is here, GM, CEO of the National Theatre. Our next panelist, Ms. Yemisi Iranloye, is the founder of Pesaltree International Limited. Where are you, please, Yemisi? Are you here? Yeah, in the back there. You should put my panelists in the front row next time because they're battling to get out here, but there you go. And then last but not least, she's the program director for enterprise, for sustainability, for growth at the Women's Business Clinic. Please give a warm round of applause to Ayona Aguele Trimwell. Trimnell, where are you, madam? Are you here? Is she not with us? She's not with us. Okay, all right. Okay, maybe she'll turn up. But in the meantime, look, 3 is the magic number, right? So where should I sit now? Let me sit over here. Yes, let me sit over here. Okay, I can do away with this mic. What I'll do is I'll keep it, and then start thinking of questions you might want to ask, and I'll come over to you, or I'll get one of my colleagues to take some Q&As if I'm allowed the time. But in the meantime, I'll switch it off. Swap to this. There you go, smoothly. Ladies, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Let me start, of course, as protocol dictates, with our guest here in the middle. The last time I saw you, I think I was in your office at the top of First Bank, right, looking out over the marina. You've always been a great supporter of women. And I think in your decades of experience, I don't think there's any challenge that you haven't seen and listened to, because you have quite a good ear. And I think that's why everyone loves you, because they feel seen. Women feel seen by you. Sometimes they feel invisible. It's nobody sees me. There are huge challenges when it comes to investing. That's what we will sort of more or less, there are many challenges, but let's start with the investing first. You've got so much experience in impact investing. Can you tell us what you've seen and some practical strategies, examples, specifically targeted to women-led enterprises, maybe within the AfCFTA framework that could work to turn the dial, to make a difference?
Good morning, everyone, and all protocols duly observed. I've enjoyed the contribution and the excellent work of everyone, and congratulations to the UNDP and the Ministry of Trade and Investment. Now, I mean, we don't even have a choice where women are concerned. If about 50% of the continent's population, and in some countries it's more than that, if they're women, and we want to grow and we want to change the landscape, we definitely have to find the right solutions. So I'll go to some specifics. And I'm glad that she's sitting right beside me, because she serves as a good example of some of what can happen. So I serve on the IC board of a fund, Alethea Idea Fund. And one of the things that Alethea did was to specifically raise funding to invest in scaling of female-led and female-focused and female-owned businesses who had the capacity to grow and also diversify across the continent. And she's one of our recipients, and she has a great story. She's built a great company, but the truth of the story also is it's made it a lot easier to scale because there was that kind of structured funding that could work with her, not just bring money, but also bring mindset, strategy, and tactical knowledge that helps the business to grow. So if we understand rightfully so that women are a latent asset for growth within the continent, women and young people, and we want to attack it, then we're going to have to be specific about designating funds that consider the limitations of women, whether they have the right kind of collateral or they have, we change asset laws that allows you, I mean, if you go to even a country like UAE, it's an Arab world and you're thinking men are very much more patriarchal than here. But if you buy a property in Dubai and you say you buy it Mr. and Mrs., the title document comes as Mr. So, your husband, 50% categorically written, and Mrs. So, the wife, 50% categorically written.
Interesting.
Not Mr. and Mrs., because Mrs. can be any Mrs. But Mrs. first name, middle name, date of birth, and her shareholding is specific. So now that gives you a sense of ownership that in the effect that you do need to work with those kind of titles, you do have access. So we need to change some rules. But more than that, we know that from records and studies that have been done by IFC, a lot of organizations, women pay better than men. They're better debtors because 90-something% of your money you will get back from women. So what kind of record do you need? A financial institution is looking for a good client that will not only deliver a good business and returns, but has the commitment to pay. Because in giving out loans, the biggest challenge is in ability to pay. It's willingness to pay. And when you get to the willingness scale, women beat men all the time.
But there's a perceived risk, I would almost call it a prejudice when it comes, because investment hates risk, right? And there's a perception that women own businesses are
You use
risky.
the right word. You use perceived. So it's a perception.
It's a misperception.
Yes, and it's a misconception. And it would take, which is why a lot of women need to be participants in the financial services sector. In creating, Alethea is a women-led fund. 2 female partners own Alethea, so they understand the issues. And in driving and finding the kind of businesses that needed the funding, they were specifically looking for women. And initially, even all the developmental funds and global funds that put money in Alethea, they had the perception it would be difficult to find the women who were at the stage that needed millions of dollars of investment. Because literally what we give out is in those kind of numbers. We're trying to build a second fund now that we can give smaller tickets as well. But as we started looking for them, they were there. They just didn't have the opportunity to get what they required in the format that they required. Because the other thing is, for AfCFTA to work, we need more patient capital. It looks perfect in the books in terms of the model of trade across the continent. But in reality, if you've traded across the continent, the problems are humongous.
Yes.
And therefore, we're going to have to build the time for that correction into the funding, the kind of funding that we apply. So commercial funding, 24 months, 12 months will not work. At 26, 29, 30%, it's not going to work. So you need like developmental funds that have 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years that are single digit. So it's not because the businesses will not grow to afford it. It's because the structure they have to deal with will make them require that kind of funding. And their contemporaries in other markets have those kind of funds available to them.
And development fund could lead the way in de-risking a project for hard-nosed commercial capital to go.
Multiple
in fact, that
options.
is Timbuktu's model for their $1 billion fund. Actually.
Multiple options for de-risking it. And you know, the funny thing about the de-risking is that women are not riskier than men. So really,
It's just because they don't have control of the narrative. Men have control of the narrative.
So those are the infrastructures we need to build into it. It's not just about training the women. It's really that there are certain infrastructures of trade that must change. And that's where the UNDP, the government positions and all of that, working together across the continent, need to break and change those policies, create the infrastructures. And the infrastructures of business, of trade across the continent themselves are business opportunities. And getting women to participate in building the infrastructures that will support that trade for women in itself will create a whole new line of businesses that women can engage in.
Now, Mrs. Awosika, you mentioned Yemisi had built a great business.
Yes,
she's gone from an idea to local, to national, to Pan-African, to global or so. And she's done this going through having to figure out how to navigate regulations. That's right, Yemisi, right? You've had to build partnerships very quickly. You've had to access new markets and make sure demystify markets in record time. Tell us first of all, quickly tell us about your business and some of the lessons you've learned in your experiences in global markets, how you've done it.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. Nice to meet you. It's nice to be here, and I am pleased and happy to congratulate Ministry of Trade and UNDP for this opportunity. Sotri International is actually into the production of food-grade starch. We use cassava to produce food-grade starch for industry use. We also eventually went into production of high-quality cassava flour, and then we then graduated into using the same cassava to produce sorbitol for your oral care. Possibly some of the toothpaste you used this morning came from our factories. This is a journey of 2 decades, practically 7 years in my mind, and then 13 years practical in the business. We work with about 10,000 farmers, starting with 17 of them 13 years ago. So we've grown over time. We sell to multinationals like Nestle and the rest of the FMCGs, almost all of them that use these different products. And 3 years ago, we decided to open the business so that we can allow funds to come in for strength and for growth. I specifically wanted a female fund. I felt that a female fund will understand what I'm going through as a woman and will be passionate. I'm not saying break the rules. I'm not saying give me a different criteria. I just want a fund that will understand me as a woman and understand the challenges I go through to build my business. Because whether we like it or not, we do go through additional challenges other than what the men go through. When you want to enter into a new space, it's a different ball game. When you are a woman, you have to really do more before those doors are open. So 3 years ago, we approached Alitia, and we found Alitia, and I felt this looks like what I wanted. And they brought in some cash. And one of the things we wanted to do was expand so that we can at least start to sell to the international market. It was easier to enter into the US and the UK. And then we now felt, oh no, we need to enter into Africa, especially with this African trade. And we started to look at doing that. I'll tell you, it was a bit more difficult to enter into the African market. It was really difficult because there was that initial pushback from Nigeria. Oh, no.
Really? You really felt that?
And I see that
it was verbalized. It wasn't subtle.
Well.
Or subtle?
Subtle.
You just
of course, it's body language. I mean, the kind of response you don't receive when you mail a company, say in the US, surprisingly.
Yes.
You receive such response even from an African company. But consistency, persistence made us to start to open the doors. And how we opened the doors was very simple.
How?
We ensured that our products, we know our products are good, but somebody must tell the world that my product is good. So we got certifications, international recognized certifications. that is able to say this product is good.
How did you do that? You applied for them. So
Okay, so-
give me one example of how you did.
For example, we knew we needed to get ISO certifications. So we got FSC 22000. We've had FSC 22000 for 8 years running. And every year we renew that particular certification, tell the world that I'm HACCP compliance, I'm food safety compliance, my factory is up to date, my factory have all the blah, blah, blah.
Clever, yeah.
Now, those certifications, the customer can go online and check.
To see whether you're
Yes,
compliant.
when they last visited my factory, what did they see there? What are the corrective actions? So they can imagine the level at which we are.
So you're literally de-risking right there. That's it. De-risking.
It's de-risking.
Yeah.
Then we went ahead to get things like HALA. As simple as HALA is, you can get it under the table in Nigeria, but we didn't do that. We went to international HALA certification bodies.
What's HALA?
Okay, HALA is a certification that says that this factory is Islamic compliance.
Oh, Islamic. Oh, halal.
Oh,
Yes,
yes.
sorry. I thought you said halal. Sorry.
Halal.
I thought you said halal. Sorry,
Because
I
it's not only
misunderstood.
Christians
Halal.
that we eat this food or that product.
Yeah.
So because we deal with raw materials used by multinational companies.
Right, okay.
So they use it to make products
And you're
that
going
go
in-
on the shelf.
Exactly. And you're going to Islamic countries across Africa.
No, it doesn't have to be Islamic
Yeah.
countries.
But countries that have a
South Africa,
yeah.
Kenya,
Yeah.
America, UK.
Yeah.
When somebody go into the shops and you want to buy, say, a pack of noodles, it can be a Christian, it can be a Muslim, it can be a Jew. Then you go ahead to get things like Krocha and other certifications.
And it really helped.
That was what opened the doors.
Very interesting.
Because we're able to say that even though we are in Nigeria, we are an international compliance company. And then the doors started to open. But with one or two additional requests, like you need insurance and some additional things, other than what we got even from companies like the US.
And where are you now? Where are you selling?
Oh, where we are selling, where we are residing.
Yeah.
Where we are residing, we are right in the village of Alaide Village in Oyo State, Nigeria.
That's your HQ right there. And your markets, where are they?
Oh, the FMC. The FMCGs in Nigeria, our major market. 80% is sold to FMCGs.
Fast-moving consumer goods. Okay, let me move on to my third superstar here when it comes to business. I've known you for many, many years, actually. I must say, we've known each other for many, many years. You're a hotelier, Bogabiri, which is like the go-to boutique hotel in Nigeria, really. The Soto Art Gallery and the 234 Art Fair has really, art and culture is an industry. It's built. The Greeks, the Romans, they built their societies are based around culture and art. So you saw that. You also have an interior design company as well. You're a restaurateur. You've done so much. Your current hat, of course, is GM and Chief Executive Officer of the National Theatre. You have to do a lot of business there. I saw the cranes outside as I was driving by from Unilag yesterday. I want to ask you this. We're talking about finance. Tell them a little bit of story, how you started your first business and how you got your finance. And 20 years ago, probably. No?
Yeah, it's a long time ago. Good morning, everyone. It's lovely to be here. Obviously, I've been functioning in the creative space. And I think what's wonderful about what's happening here is that there's so much information. I think the pillars that were mentioned, knowledge, capacity, and facility funding, are things that when we started were not really easily available. So it's a wonderful initiative, and a huge congratulations to you. So when we started the hotel, this is a long time ago now, we were not able to get traditional funding. It's very difficult in the creative space to get traditional funding, even up till today. And so sometimes you need to kind of think a little bit out of the box. What we did have, we had a lot of art. We had a lot of artwork. So we obviously started with friends, family, funding, our own funding as well. But we were able to secure funding with using artwork as collateral, which was pretty unusual at the time. But we were able to find someone who understood and appreciated the value of art and was able to understand that, we'll take this art, and once you paid back your loan, you will get it back. But we knew the value, and they knew the value, so it worked quite well. Obviously, that's a very unusual story, but sometimes you do need to be creative about what you're doing in the industry that you're in. I think what's really important now is just be able to research and understand what you're going into, what stage you are in business, having good structures in place. I think structures are everything in terms of finance, in terms of just accounting, in terms of HR, in terms of legal. I think you have to be ready for the money to come, right? So I think as a young business, I think you're 13 years on, you had all the structures in place, and it was probably easier for them to give you funding. But I think if you're a young business, it's important that you really think about those structures from the beginning. It's much easier to start with the structures in place and actually try and do it later on. So having, your good systems in place and everything. I also want to say that these days, I think you could also get, the banks are it's difficult to get funding from banks. It's very expensive. But there's so many other ways of getting funding, such as the fintechs. There's so many, I think in terms of like tech now, there's so many ways you can improve your operational system, and even payment platforms. I know someone like Traction, if they see the kind of cash flows you have, they can actually lend you money based on your cash flow and your ability. They can see your business, what you're doing. So I think there's so many ways now. So I feel like information is power. That's what you need now to really be able to.
When you invest in a business, you invest in the people that are behind the business, right?
It.
An investor comes, they're quite hard-nosed. They look at your books, they look at project development, whether you know yours, but it's also who's behind it, right? That's really important. What can you tell young startups or young businesses about readying themselves? What do they need to do? It's a beauty parade, right? Let's be honest, right? And there's other people baying for that same capital, right? What could they do themselves personally so that the investors have confidence in that young lady?
I think, again, structures, governance, really, really important. I think if you have a business where everything is ready to go and someone doesn't have that, they're going to go for the business that's doing all those things. But also, some businesses, it's not always about the profitability, it's about the numbers, So you need to really understand the field in which you're playing in. And I also feel that you also need to understand that you're working in it's a world where everything is very visual. Especially in my space. And I think you need to understand that there's kind of value in putting your product out there in a way that's appealing as well. I think it's like we have so many stories to tell through our products, our design, but how are we telling those stories? Are they landing in a way that's really compelling, that's really moving?
Your narrative.
Your narrative is extremely important. Your PR, your branding are really, really important these days, because I think people are not doing as much as others, but their branding and their PR is amazing.
Yeah.
And so people are sometimes drawn to them, but obviously you look at the numbers as well. So I would say ensuring that you are really understanding the power of storytelling. And I think our content, we have so many stories to tell, but how are they landing? Yeah.
Everywhere. When I was downstairs and I did a quick sweep of the wonderful display, the exhibition down there, and someone showed me that they were selling coconut gari. I didn't know you can make gari from coconut. Did you know that? It's amazing. And you soak it, right? And so we were talking, and she was talking about how, the sugar, when you soak gari with sugar, everybody who has soaked gari with sugar and coconuts and granules, lots of hands, right? Yes. So when you do that, you take a lot of sugar into your body, but this one had a natural sweet flavor where you could cut out the sugar. Number one cause of diabetes, by the way, right? And so, that's a story right there. That's a narrative, and so someone picks that product up, and that product is more than a product, yeah? It has meaning, it's a story. So I get go on.
And just to give an example of the cookbook, the Rishishi cookbook, I think there's so many cookbooks, out there. I think telling a story about culture behind the food and what you're doing, just example of one of the things I've put out and the response, be able to that packaging is extremely important.
And I want to go on back to Mrs. Awosika. I think we're running out of time here, so maybe one more question. I just that was using artwork as collateral. That is what they call innovative financing. What are some of the other ways that the models maybe within this, that you've seen that effectively innovative financing models that support specifically women-led initiatives? What are some of those things that could be scaled? Because we're talking about scale. That's really what we're talking about, right?
I think if there's a time where women are at an advantage for being able to get the right kind of funding, it's now. Because there's a lot of focus on DEI. There's a whole impact investing movement. I just joined the board of 2X Collaboration, which is focused globally on raising investable funds at the highest level to be directed to women-focused businesses across the world. Now, what that tells you is, now, you can create the pool, but you need a funnel to drive it down into each local environment, which means that within each of the countries, like Nigeria, you need to create the local infrastructure, companies that are focused on gender investing. And when you create the vehicles that are focused on gender investing, they are then part of the pool that attracts from the global direction of fund for women-led businesses, but they understand the local landscape and they're able to break it down into the small diets that can go back. Look, if we really want to build disciplined business people and we want funds that will continue to create value, we're not talking about grants that people just consume and don't feel a responsibility. So it's important that within the ecosystem of impact investing, which is something that we're working on, Nigeria is one of the key part of the global GSG impact, which I have the privilege to be vice chair at the global level. But what is even more important is the solutions that are being created. So we're creating a community of impact investing companies and funds. And they, in turn, will then deal with the cheaper, more directed, more specific kinds of funds that will go into those sectors with the understanding of the local context. And that is really important. Right now, the Nigerian Advisory Board for Impact Investing is working with the Ministry of Budget and Planning to set up a wholesale fund for Nigeria. Our target is $1 billion. We're starting with the first $100 million. Money attracted locally and internationally, but that will be distributed through small fund managers at different levels. Gender runs through, we have 4 focus industries: agriculture, education, healthcare, and gender and youth as a cutting across policy that will run across where those funds will be applied. So look, it's a long-term plan, but we have to build the infrastructure. I keep going back to that. If we don't build the infrastructure to make this happen, it will not happen. So that's something that we need to coordinate along with the work that UNDP and Ministry of Trade is doing in order to ensure that as you create the environment of the women who can trade across the continent, you also are part of building the infrastructure that can facilitate their ability to have all that they need to effectively trade.
So I think we're almost out of time, but can I take a couple of questions, or am I out of time? I have to ask my bosses. 2 questions. Okay. Yes, I already see a hand up of a lady there. I saw you first. I'm coming to you. One more. Maybe some of the none of the traders want to speak. Okay, so which lady? Okay, I have to choose that lady at the back there. The VIPs in the front. No, that had a lady over there and a lady over there. I'm coming to you now with my mic. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to go back here. No, I can't go that way. I'm going to go this way. So where are you? Stand up, please. You're making it a little bit harder for me because I can't see you. Okay. Maybe you want to come to me. Yeah. Okay, so you can just come here. Okay. This is how we do it. You introduce yourself, tell us what you do, and then ask your question, but make your question shorter than the answer.
I will. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Emma Mujisha. I am Ugandan, excited to be here. One thing I've been here in Nigeria for 3 months, and one thing that I've been fascinated about the Nigerian women is they do big things, whereas we in East Africa are still doing smaller things. And I'm excited that I noticed that you're buying cassava from Uganda. What are you doing to expand into the other African countries as big businesses from Nigeria? I think this would be a good launch pad for us to do big things as women in Africa.
Thank you. Please, go ahead.
As we speak, we have about 3 or 4 African countries already talking to us. As a matter of fact, they come in, spend like a week or 2 in our facility to see what we are doing, especially as it relates to the farmers. But what have made it a bit difficult to do that first leg is the funding. You can't move Nigerian money to Kenya. You don't have a banking. So it's a bit difficult. True, I'm sorry you see me in the Uganda space. That's because the Uganda government have been like on my case for us to take that leap to Uganda. And we are in serious talk. I should be coming to Uganda in the next few weeks. But the difficulty is the financial infrastructure.
Yeah, because you have to go through a third currency, which you
so
have to buy euros or dollars where you lose 15% of your
If we must
profit.
move from Nigeria to Uganda, Uganda to Nigeria, there must be an infrastructure that allows that movement.
AfrEximbank is creating something called PAPS, I think.
They already exist.
It exists.
It exists, but not in all countries. So for a number, I mean, like at First Bank, we created that infrastructure on the back of like a Dangote. Because when you have majors who are doing business across different African countries, you need a financial system that links them. So that infrastructure has started, but the African countries are actually they're the limiting factor most of the time. And I know that the DRC ambassador is left, but I'll give you an example. So First Bank, we have a bank in DRC, and you couldn't even execute the agency banking because the data infrastructure for you to be able to run agency banking across the country doesn't exist. And as a bank, we had to lead the investment in that with their government in order for us to be able to do that. So it's part of why AfCFTA, I kept talking about infrastructure, because that's a problem that can readily be solved. Nigerian banks are aggressive, they're dynamic, they have the capacity to do it. But a lot of those other African countries do not presently fully have the infrastructure or the rules that makes it easy for that to be resolved. So that's part of what the African Union, working with other agencies, need to drive policies that enables that interconnectivity of the financial system.
And maybe, Her AfCFTA can be a platform to actually lobby for that and actually bang the drum in that respect. Because, of course, the UN...
just takes too long compared to how fast you want the trade to occur.
Okay, madam, over here.
Thank you. My name is Kanaya Olisametu, and my question is for Mrs. I run a foundation, a non-governmental foundation. My question is it might seem like I'm going off on a tangent, but please just bear with me. My question is for Mrs. Awushika, because I followed her for a while, and I know she's a deep thinker. I was very moved by Madam Ahunna's speech, not just because of the passion with which she spoke, but because it's sort of, I could see vicariously through the eyes of some of the women I work with. Now, working in and offering access to justice for people, especially women, has made me realize that poverty is a massive risk factor for injustice, torture, and all of those things. And Madam Ahunna said that Her AfCFTA is a platform to harness the deep resource in our women. And I work with hundreds of women that are not your usual suspects. We have all these lovely women here displaying all those things, that you've given them a platform. What do you think can be done for those women who on the basis of the fact they live in IDP camps, the women I work with. They are, they are endangered too. They are dangerous for gender-based violence. There's just all sorts of things they're exposed to because of poverty. What do you think can be done for those women?
Okay,
good question.
I think one of the things we always forget, which we haven't invested in, is building the value chain of every business. See, she said to you, how many thousand farmers? They work with about 10,000 farmers. Now, the 10,000 farmers have automatically become plugged into her trade and export globally. But they're not the visible end of it that you see. But what they do is impossible without those 10,000 farmers, which is why we need to fully understand how the value chain should work. We keep throwing money at the bottom of the pyramid, thinking if we solve the problem at the bottom, and I always watch, especially international money when it comes to Nigeria, is dealing at micro. Micro is a subsistence level. It does not create the value by itself. Where we really need to apply the growth and the investment is in the middle and up. Because when you build 10,000 of her and other types of businesses, they cannot survive without building the back end. So there's a backward integration that will automatically go into play. We can then intentionally train the women you're talking about in the areas of their core skills and find their plugins. It's like, when Rwanda was recovering from their problem, one of the ways the Rwandan women reached out to the rest of the world was their basket weaving. But you didn't know 99% of the women that were weaving the baskets. But you could walk into Macy's, into Harrods, and different highbrow stores and buy baskets made by those Rwandan women. Why? There were other women in the value chain who were the ones who organized these women to weave, organized that they have the right material, do the quality control, but they move it up a value chain to distribution around the world. That's what we need to do. If we do it right with all of this, there are those driving the market into the rest of the continent and the world, but it goes all the way back into villages, and nobody needs to come to Lagos to do it. That allows us to decentralize our cities. So it's government working smartly, but allowing private sector people to be champions of industries. But I can tell you sad tales of those kind of things as well, because government doesn't understand how to work collaboratively with the private sector in order to achieve that. But government cannot drive it. Government can drive the policies, but you need to find the private sector champions that would drive it to the rest of the world. Thank you.
We're more or less out of time now, so I'm going to give you all 1 minute or less just for your final thought. We're looking at breaking barriers with Her AfCFTA. We're looking at, if I could ask you to look into your crystal balls, your imaginary crystal balls, and look into the future that you want to see for women-led businesses, in 1 minute, what does it look like, Tola?
I think the seed is wonderful. So we want to grow that to enable more businesses to do more. So started, and I think working for government and seeing what's going on this side, we definitely need to be doing a lot more to move things forward. It's our policies, as Mr. Oshika said. So I'm really excited. It's a great time for creative industries, a lot of investment going in there, and it's a great time for women as well. So I think just more investment.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so for me, I want to see a woman, or an African woman, who is fully empowered. An African woman who is financially liberated and being able to create great impact in her community. A strong-willed, wealthy African successful businesses.
And finally, Mrs. Awoshika, you have the last word, the last minute.
I just want us to realize that, while we're talking about our AfCFTA, we're talking about the development of a continent. And it's not a gender issue, it's an economic issue. And making sure that we use the talents and the gifts and the minds of brilliant, amazing African women. It's not about gender, it's about the survival of our continent. Because if 50% of your population is undermined, it doesn't matter how hard the rest of them work. you're never going to achieve your potential.
Speaking of brilliant, amazing, intelligent women, can I ask these three to stand up? Can I ask you to give them a round of applause, please? Thank you very much. So if you could, if you be careful as you step down to return to your seats. We just have one or two last things to do before we close the proceedings and the launch of Her AfCFTA. Okay, next, I would like to call back to the podium for the call to action. Once again, if you can give a round of applause to Ahuna Eziakonwa to give the call to action, according to my... Perhaps you want to stand maybe on the stage for a change, and you can have my mic.
Yeah, I'll just stand here. Who is inspired? All right, there is your call to action. I think it starts with inspiration. It starts with being motivated to do the right thing. And I think maybe we're even preaching to the converted. In this room are people who are burning with a passion to change things. And we need to put our hands together. We need to connect, link up our hands. We've heard it. We've heard what the bottlenecks are. And everyone in their place, in your sphere of influence, you can make a difference. Whether you're on the policy side working with government, or you are in the trenches with the women who are in IDP camps, or you're a middle-sized business utilizing smallholder farmers, I think we all need to have the same understanding that there is a lift that we have to do. And it takes a village. And I think really the words that Ms. Awoshika spoke about, this not being just being nice to women, but being an existential issue, an economic issue. A few years ago, we did a study that showed that Africa was losing about $95 billion every year as a result of not having women empowered and the level of discrimination against women that we were seeing. We haven't even talked today about the harmful cultural aspects of this, where a young woman is looked at by a bank. You show up in a bank for financing, and they look at you and say, tomorrow you're going to get married and have babies, and you won't be able to pay back. Or a young woman is looked at and said, where is your collateral? And in her village, she's not allowed to own land. So there are all of these issues that are economic in nature, and we want to be able to remove these barriers, break that gridlock. But the good news is that we can. We have the raw material. We have the grit. And if women have anything to do with it, it's going to change. But men are also important in this equation. We can't go it alone as women. And as Mark was saying earlier, the UN promotes this concept of he for she. We need to activate the men. And we need to stop having meetings where we only have women. And that's really my call to action. Let's find the men also who can influence some of this. We will not be able to have all financing facilities headed by women or banks headed by women who understand. We need to make the men understand. And that's our call to action. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ahuna. And you, in your earlier speech, you talked about many actions that you're doing with partners that are actually tangible things that are happening now, funding, and you mentioned the post office buildings. There's a lot happening. We need to get on board and work together. One last thing to do before we take the family photo. Yeah? And that is just to get some brief closing remarks on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. Please welcome the Managing Director of Tafawa Balewa Square, Mrs. Lucia Shitu is coming for the closing remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to stand on all existing protocols. I am very excited to be part of this event today and very grateful for the opportunity to speak to this gathering. Women have, over the years, witnessed a rapidly expanding role in our society, from primarily being seen as homemakers to being co-providers, and now, in ever-increasing cases, sole providers in many homes. Women are playing leading roles in entrepreneurship and constitute a high percentage of small business owners and startups as well. The Her AfCFTA initiative within the African Continental Free Trade Area is a welcome development to support and empower women. All trade-related agencies and associations have a role to play in ensuring that women can capitalize on the opportunities this presents. At Tafawa Balewa Square, we take pride in providing business space for micro, small, and medium enterprises to flourish. As the host of the annual Lagos International Trade Fair and numerous other exhibitions and events, we actively encourage women to showcase their products, skills, and innovations. Our commitment extends beyond more encouragement. We stand ready to collaborate with entrepreneurial clusters, facilitating mini exhibitions that connect these talented women with new markets. Today, I reaffirm our unwavering commitment to the Her AfCFTA initiative. We pledge to be a steadfast partner ensuring that its goals are met by empowering women. We not only uplift individual lives, but also contribute to the broader economic growth and prosperity of our nation and the continent as a whole. I would like to close this off by expressing my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you here present here today, and I once again like to thank the UNDP for their dedication to this program. Let us continue to champion the cause of women in trade, entrepreneurship, and economic development. Together, we can create a more inclusive and prosperous future ahead. Thank you, everyone, and may our collective efforts yield transformative results. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you very much, the MD of Tafawa Balewa Square. I guess that all that leaves me to do is just to just make a couple of acknowledgements before we close. Mrs. Olakunbi Uzochukwu is the MD of Delbro. She's here with us somewhere here. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here. We're also joined by Ayona Agule Trim-Noel, who is the Program Director, Enterprise Sustainability and Growth for Women's Business Clinic. So with that, I guess all I can say is onwards and upwards to women and business. Let Her AfCFTA be an amazing, amazing platform to Mrs. Awashika. Before you go, you know, when I have a microphone, you can't just rush off. We need you to take a photo with us. So I need my colleagues to jump in right now and not let her go. That's Ahuna, please. If you could join her on stage for the family photo. And I would ask all my speakers actually that are still here, if you've been a speaker, and also the MD of Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. I see you sitting down there. You've sat enough. You have to come and stand and join us. Another he for she, ladies and gentlemen. And all the other speakers, please join us. If you've been a speaker, Tola, please join as well. And any other of our other dignitaries that are here, please join us and let's take a nice photo for Her AfCFTA. Okay, where's my snappers? Snappers will snap and well. Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Be careful as you're standing on the stage there. Marvelous, marvelous, sir. Okay, maybe you can hold each other's hands in unity and raise them above your heads, ladies and gentlemen, and say, Her AfCFTA. I officially close the launch of Her AfCFTA. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Okay, that's good.
Ladies and gentlemen, please note that the exhibition continues on the second floor. Ladies Ladies and gentlemen, please note that the exhibition continues on the second floor. Thank you.